Hello everyone, welcome to Cherries Red Army, Kirk, and our latest video. Aaron, you're joining me, and Variety we're bringing in this pre-season. How are you doing?
Yeah, very good, Kirk. Yeah, more internationals, but just want the real stuff to start as soon as possible.
Okay, so we're going into the Premier League next year, Aaron, and we're going in with the likes of technology and VAR. What an opportunity to speak to a former referee. That's what we're going to do in a moment. And look, we're going to try and get to the bottom of some of our frustrations that we experience as a fan inside of the stadium. I know that I used to get frustrated with decisions, but I used to accept that they were human. With technology involved, it's making my frustrations worse because I feel like I'm seeing more people look at it and still make the same errors before technology was in the game. But it's going to be an interesting video, this one.
Yeah, really looking forward to it. Really trying to get some insight from who was a real top referee, a few years ago. Looking to sort of see what his thoughts are on the modern state of the game. But certainly VAR, I'm sure, will come up. And the whole kind of controversy surrounding that, but also be interesting to kind of hear about his experiences and the many questions that people have for referees or that sort of thing. So it'd be really interesting. Really looking forward to that.
We really appreciate you checking out this video. Please hit the subscribe button, help Cherries Red Army 3 pre-season. Also hit the like button on this video at any point, but hit it now. Don't waste your time. Hit the like button. And of course, at the end of this video, we want to get your comments below. So let us know your thoughts. But it's time for us to catch up and have a chat with former professional Premier League referee Mark Halsey. So a very warm welcome to our latest guest on Cherries Red Army, former professional referee in the Premier League. It's very good to have you on the channel, Mark Halsey. How are you doing?
Yeah, very well, thank you, guys. How are you?
Yeah, we're very, very good. Pre-season's just about kicking in, Aaron.
Yeah, exactly. Missing the football already. There are some internationals on, but it doesn't quite float the boat in the same way. So yeah, it's nice to have a bit of a break, but looking forward to the new season, definitely.
And in these videos, it's an opportunity to do some variety. And what a way going into the Premier League, back in the Premier League for Bournemouth being promoted, to talk about things like VAR. We've got some of your questions coming in this video. We're hoping we can use the experience of Mark Halsey to make us feel a little bit better about potential VAR and technology going into the new season. First of all, though, Mark, I'm sure a lot of people know who you are, but for anyone who doesn't know who you are, can you give us a bit of background into yourself and getting into refereeing and ultimately refereeing in the top division of English football?
Yeah, just before we start, I know we're going to be talking about VAR, but if we had VAR in the Championship, you wouldn't have had 6 points off of us last season. So, being a big QPR fan.
I was going to ask you actually later on if you support the football team, so you've done it now.
Yeah, I do. That's my team, boys from the bush. Yeah, listen, I started out as a semi-professional goalkeeper, playing non-league football for many, many years. Sort of retired from playing football at 28 back in late 1980s, 88 I think it was, before I sort of took up the whistle. Sort of come through the local leagues, through the non-leagues, obviously all the leagues I played in, and sort of known a lot of players. Sort of quickly rose up through the ranks, and then obviously through the National League, or the conference as it was then, into the Football League, and into the Premier League, and then obviously 2001, my ultimate dream was to make the FIFA list, the international list, which I never thought that I would do when I sort of gave up football all those years ago and took up the whistle.
Aaron, I mean, I know as a fan, sometimes we're relying on one man to maybe help us along in certain football matches, but we're going to talk about refereeing in the current climate. It can't be an easy task, and it must be getting harder and harder with the likes of social media getting involved.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I've got two boys, Mark, and I sometimes referee their Sunday league matches, and it's that's like for a bunch of 14-year-old boys and 11-year-old boys. You get abuse even at that age. It's incredible. Yeah. So yeah, no, it's a thankless task. It obviously go to so many games as I do over the years. I've, obviously had my opinions on various referees over the years, and obviously some decisions. But
don't we all?
For me, exactly. But for me, that's part and parcel of football. And obviously, we'll come on to VAR later on about the changes that's brought to the game. But it's part and parcel of the game. Things even itself out. But yeah, I mean, it must be. I don't know how much, after your performances, obviously going back to when you retired, it was about 8-9 years ago, wasn't it now?
Yeah, 2000, end of 2013.
Right. So maybe you probably didn't feel the brunt of the whole social media world to the same extent back then about, performances and obviously reading things back. But obviously, you probably read about your performances in the papers, I guess.
Never was never on social media back in the day. Never read the newspapers, because everything you do, I mean, you're right about. I feel sorry for the guys at grassroots level. It must be so difficult for them to referee, especially in youth football. And the higher you go as a referee, the easier it becomes. You don't get that abuse. It may look like referees are getting abuse and from the players, but it's just normal banter between referee and players. And for me, there's nothing wrong with that. But I see that perhaps may sort of come in and trial the cameras, where referees wear cameras on themselves to pick up all this poor discipline that we're seeing. And I really do feel for the young referees, that are refereeing likes of, your sons, 11 and 14. So you're getting 13 and 14-year-old referees refereeing the 11-year-olds, and you're getting 15, 16-year-olds refereeing the 14-year-olds. So it's so difficult for them. And I think football clubs and managers and the parents have a responsibility to them, the young players and the young referee, because would they like the referees to come out and start shouting abuse at their young players, the abuse they shout at the referee? And I
often find myself guilty of that, I have to say. Yeah,
I mean, and I think that it's the home club that is responsible for that young referee. As soon as that young referee walks into that ground, into that environment, he should be looked after by someone that's appointed by the club, whether it's a club secretary or it's a coach or it's a parent, that has to look after that referee from the moment he arrives at the ground to the moment he leaves. And anybody that has seen giving that referee vocal abuse or insulting language towards that young referee should be asked to leave the facility. And if he continues, they give him a ban, and also they take their young player out, their young son or daughter out of the club for a 2-week ban. Give them a ban. I know it's not nice. We want to see youngsters playing football, but if we cannot respect the referee, something needs to change. And it's getting worse week in, week out. It's getting worse. And these young referees are the future of the game. Without a referee, there's no game.
100%. I'll tell you what, you could do a whole video on grassroots football. I know that in our youth football league, I think we're down to about 5 referees that will actually be able to referee like an under 14s, 15s, 16s. But it's such a critical time for grassroots. And I do agree with you. And I think there's factors that come into that. So if we look then, Mark, because we're really trying to get some meaty stuff off you, hopefully, with regards to in the Premier League next season, I'm quite interested to start in a position for, how does the body determine what referees are decided for each game, and how do you prepare for that? And do you feel like you get, are you sort of, is it area or is it certain teams that you can only referee?
No, I mean, obviously, I mean, in this day and age, you cannot referee the club that you support, or because you have to notify them of which team you support. And obviously, if you live in that town or city, you cannot referee that football club. But I mean, we're seeing later that Andy Taylor lives in Manchester. I mean, just down the road from Old Trafford and the Etihad. Yeah, he referees those 2 teams. So, I think it's sort of changing now. I mean, because you cannot never question an integrity of a referee, whether he supports one of those teams. And as a referee, once you cross that white line, you're refereeing. You're a referee refereeing two football teams, 22 players, irrespective. And then you referee what's in front of you. As regards of appointing, obviously, you've got the Select Group 1 list, which I think there's around about 17 or 18 of the guys on the list now. They will be appointed by the PGML, the Select Group 1 manager, because obviously you've got Select Group 1, Select Group 2, which referee in the Championship. So the manager of those two groups will appoint the referees. And I think, to be fair, when I was refereeing and Keith Hackett was my boss, and I worked under Mike Riley for 3 to 4 seasons, so two totally different management styles, And when Keith was in charge, you were accountable, and obviously, if you didn't perform and you had an indifferent performance, say 2 or 3 games on the trot, even if you only had a really poor performance in one game, Keith would take you out. He would take you out of that kitchen to give you some breathing space to go away and reboot yourself, get your confidence, and perhaps go back and referee in the championship for 1 or 2 weeks. But it just seems to be at the present no accountability with the current crop. Now, listen, I mean, a lot of people say it should go on performance, and you look at our 2 best referees, who undoubtedly is in the Premier League, is Michael Oliver and Anthony Taylor, and what you've got to remember is referees are like players. You cannot be at your best week in, week out. You can't. We're human. So I don't think football fans and media take that into the account. They say, oh yeah, such and such has had a poor game today. Yeah, I mean, he can't be at his best every week. He's going to have an off day. Well, so is a referee. And I do agree. I think the standard of officiating over the last 10 years has dramatically dropped. I really do, and I think that comes from the management, the leadership, the direction, the training and education of the management. And then I don't necessarily blame the referees, because we have got some good young referees out there. I just think they're poorly led by a management team, and it's about, I look at you look at players. And coaches of football clubs and players. You look at coaches and you look at them, you think, good coaches turn good average players into good players into excellent players. That's no different. That is no different from referees. And we're struggling with a lack of excellent coaches that have been there, seen it, done it, and worn the t-shirt. And if you got to look around, you look at myself, you look at Mark Clattenburg, you look at Howard Webb, you look at Lee Probert, you look at Roger East, have all left the PGMOL. And you have to ask, why have they left the PGMOL? I mean, Howard Webb's is looking after the United States MLS referees. Yeah. Why did he leave you have to ask the question, why did he leave the PGMOL?
Aaron.
He was unhappy. So
Aaron.
I think we've got a good crop of referees there, and I just think they're poorly led and poorly managed. And referees like players. It's all about confidence. It's all about everything. It's like you guys. Everything you do is all about confidence.
Definitely.
Some players need a kick up the backside. Some players need a little bit of loving. There's no difference. There's no different with referees. Some referees need a good kick up the backside. Some referees need a little bit of loving. And that's the difference between when Keith Hackett was in charge and taking over to Mike Riley. The difference is it's like you're managing a dressing room. You're managing a dressing room. You're not managing a dressing room of players. You're managing a dressing room of referees.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, the current management do not know how to manage their dressing room.
Aaron, this is so refreshing to hear, because we know that when we see a referee have a bad day at the office and you feel hard done by, there seems to be no accountability. They can't come on screen and tell us why they've given those decisions. They're very much protected. Are you finding what you're hearing very refreshing? Because I am. I feel like what Mark's saying is exactly what we want to be hearing ourselves.
No, absolutely. And you said it yourself, Mark. If a referee underperforms, they can be moved down to a championship, and God knows, we've had some god awful referees this season, or last season, should I say? In the championship, and the level is really, really, really poor. And it's just, as you said, there's no accountability. There's so much money riding in the game these days. And at the end of the day, as you say, look, everyone's human, everyone makes mistakes. People want to be entertained, but when you see decisions which can ruin a game of football, or it's as I said, that there's the managers have to come out and they're not allowed to say anything about the referees, because then they'll get sanctioned and punished. And referees, they might be moved to a championship or League One or whatever it might be for a couple of weeks, but ultimately that's it. There's no further sanctions. But you were talking about before about about certain managers. Do you think the younger referees now today, there's an intimidation from managers? Obviously, back in your time, Ferguson's obviously a real good example. And today, with the likes of Klopp, Guardiola, do they put pressure on referees, whether it's even before the game or even at half time about certain decisions? How much does that actually goes on in the game?
Sir Alex's wine was delicious. No, listen, look,
red or white?
Oh, red, definitely red. He loves his red. Listen, to be a referee at the highest level, to referee the top games or any game. I mean, don't matter what game you're refereeing. I loved refereeing whether I was in League One, League Two, and Championship or the Premier League. I treated every game the same. I treated every game as though it would be lost. Whatever game you're refereeing, they deserved, for you to put your all in. I know, you look at it, some referees go down to League One, League Two, think, oh, the arrogance, or what am I doing down here? I'm better than this. No, you shouldn't feel like that. I mean, I always went when I went down to League One or League Two. I thought to myself, I don't want the crowd shouting Premier League, you're having a laugh. So I always made sure I was at my best. But it's not easy. And you made a good point about referees coming out and talking to the media after a game or after perhaps there's a big controversial decision. Now, what you've got to remember is the referees are not media trained, so you cannot get a referee coming out speaking to the media, because what the media like. They chop them up and spit him out. So for me, that's a no-no. But what they can do is, I mean, in the Premier League, as Bournemouth will know, and it's great to see Scotty do well. It's great to see Scotty Parker get him back, because I had many battles with him on the field of play, and he was great. It was great to have I can't say what we said to each other on the field of play, because it's it was shop floor language, because that is the shop floor. But if you look at every game, every Premier League game has a match delegate appointed by the Premier League. So it's either an ex-player, an ex-manager, or an administrator that goes and looks at the referee's performance on behalf of the clubs, and obviously speaks to the manager, gets the manager's opinion about the referee's performance. They look at his decision making, his key match decision making, his man management, and his fitness. So after that game, the delegate will always go in and speak to the referee about his performance and about decisions in the game. Now, if there was a couple of controversial moments in the game, they will talk about it. And the delegate, because I know, because it happens, because I've worked under delegates. They come in and they speak about your performance, and they'll ask you about, say there was an incident in a penalty incident in the 75th minute. They will ask you about that penalty. How did you see it? What did you see? Talk to me about it. So with that, the referee would give him his viewpoint, the delegate would give him his viewpoint, and then once they've spoken, for me, then the delegate goes out and speaks to the written media, like the management do. So the managers do, I should say. And then say, right, they ask him the questions. The delegate will say, yeah, I've been speaking to the referee, and this is what the referee saw, and this is how he saw it, and that's why he come to that decision, not to give to award a penalty. VAR have not got involved because it's not a clear and obvious penalty, but had it been given, it would have stayed given. Those sort of remarks. So, yeah, I think there's a lot to be said about the delegate coming out and speaking to the media.
Right, Mark, I can't ignore it anymore. And the reason I brought you on here is because Bournemouth, we are worried about VAR next season.
You're worried about VAR. I worry about it every week.
So let's talk about VAR, because I was very much, when I was playing and watching football, I think I appreciated that referees were human.
Yeah.
That you got frustrated in the moment, you were gutted when a decision didn't go for you, but you sat there and went, look, he's human, you're going to make a mistake, and you moved on. Now, when VAR came in and was voted in 2018, came into the 1920 season, in my view, I know in the sort of wording of VAR, Mark, it says that we won't get everything 100% correct. But in my theory, I felt like it was going to eradicate major stuff. In really, it was going to be almost black and white. My concern is that we had a tough season in 1920. We felt a lot went for us in that season. I'm sure a lot of other teams would say that as well. But as we head back to the Premier League, 2 years on, it's still concerning that we're seeing inconsistencies, errors, and now you've got 4 people with replays making the problem. And the issue I've got now, Mark, is I feel like the referee's getting battered even more because now you can see the replays where before it was just like the split second decision. He made a mistake. He's human. Now it's like they're making a mistake with replays.
Yeah, I think I feel your concerns, and I think I agree with you. I think in the Premier League, I think it's been implemented incorrectly. They're not following the AFCB protocol, and there's far too many inconsistencies that we've seen, last season. And I'm sure you watch a lot of Premier League football. Even I think, the ghost goal that sent Sheffield United down and kept Aston Villa up. That obviously that would have kept, if that had gone in, that would have kept you up as well. I believe, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
And you look, I just think that it's the leader. I've touched on it earlier. It's the leadership, the education, the training and education of our officials with VAR. And yes, they are far, far too many inconsistencies. I can think loads off the top of my head. I can go back to Newcastle, Man City. I think it was Ryan Fraser. And it was Edison that's come herring out and just cleaned him out, wiped him out.
He's allowed to do that. It's Ryan Fraser. It's fine.
Right, yeah. Sorry.
He's allowed to do that. It's Ryan Fraser.
It's Ryan Fraser.
But he's there with his old manager. So
he only plays for him, to be fair, Mark.
Plays for him now, doesn't he? Yeah. So you look at that and you think to yourself, I'm watching that, you're watching that, you'll think, no, that's an absolute nailed-on penalty. One, you'd look at that and say, how's the referee, on-field referee, shouldn't even go to VAR. How is the on-field referee not given that as a penalty? Absolutely wiped him out. And then you're thinking, VAR's got to look at this. VAR's got to recommend a review. And VAR don't even recommend a review. So you're looking at that and you're thinking, how on earth has that not been recommended as a review? I mean, you look at Harry Kane, Tottenham, Liverpool. That challenge Harry Kane made. You think that's an absolute red card. That's got to be reviewed. That will be reviewed. And then they don't review it. And so you're looking at it and you think, and you can understand why people are getting frustrated. Managers, players, supporters. So yes, there's far too many inconsistencies with VAR when they're getting involved and when they're not getting involved. And I think another thing that should happen is that everybody should hear the discussion between VAR and the referee. So everybody knows what's going on. Everybody can hear what's going on, and everybody can then understand why they come to a decision.
Love it.
To give a penalty or not give a penalty, or give a sending off or not give a sending off for whatever reason, serious foul play, violent conduct. And we may not agree with it, but we would respect it, the decision that was made, because we can hear everything that's going on.
The biggest issue I've got is and I think everyone agrees on this. And one thing I loved about the Championship last year was when you score a goal, you quick look at the linesman and then you can go berserk. You can go crazy.
In the Premier League, you can't.
Yeah, you can't do that. But I could just about suffer that if they're going to get the decisions right. And what you said, Mark, really hit the nail on the head. I don't know if you saw the Championship playoff final where Mr. Moss obviously wants to go out with a bang. And it's 120 million pounds on that game. And what gets me is, as you say, I don't know what your view is on the clear and obvious, because there are inconsistencies, but they're very clear on the fact that it has to be a clear and obvious error to overturn it. Now that's absolute nonsense for me. If it's a penalty, it's a penalty, right?
But that's where we've been seeing the inconsistencies this season, isn't it? Or the season just gone, and the season before that, and the season before that. And that's the training education of that. And I did watch the Championship playoff final. Felt sorry for Huddersfield because I thought the first penalty was a penalty. Even though when you look at it, okay, you look at that, is that a clear and obvious error? Now, Jack I think was it Jack Colback come out and held his hands up, and he looked up to the gods when it wasn't given, and he come off and said, "Yes, I caught him." But for me, okay, it's subjective. Whether at that moment in time, that is subjective. Whether Jon Moss gives a penalty or not. The moment Jon Moss brings out his yellow card and cautions him for simulation, that triggers the clear and obvious error because it wasn't simulation.
Right.
So that should have triggered a review straight away. And then obviously the second one, that's a blatant penalty. Again, that should have, for me, that's a clear and obvious error. Should have triggered a recommendation for review. And going back to Jon Moss, for me, that's a massive, massive game. And for me, he's an average referee at best. Okay, so we saw his performances. I think it was at Leicester before that. He was wrong in law with a drop of Southampton. He was wrong in law. Southampton had the ball. He dropped the ball and gave it to Leicester, who went straight up and scored a goal. The drop ball should have gone to Southampton because they had the ball. The performance of Liverpool, of Aston Villa and Liverpool, you got to think to yourself, he wasn't at the races that day. And as I said, we all have in different performances. So, we're all human. But for a game of that magnitude, should have gone to either Michael Oliver or Anthony Taylor. Should have had that game.
But where I'm confused with this, Mark, is I'm with you, by the way, 100%. It was a foul, the first one. I said, when I saw the first replay, there's contact. He's put his leg out. That's a foul. The second one's even worse. And I feel sorry for Huddersfield. They deserved the opportunity to equalise from 12 yards. They were poor on the day, but they deserve to get themselves...
It's a big decision. It's a game-changing decision because Huddersfield get back into the game there, then who knows what's going to happen.
100%. Where I'm confused, though, Mark, is if Jon Moss gives the penalty, it stays as a penalty.
Yes, it would do, yeah.
So that's where I get confused with the whole VAR because I was in this when I saw VAR came in. I thought it did okay in the World Cup, and I thought, actually, this might be all right because I was worried as a former attacking player who liked to see lots of goals. This might slow the game down, might take goals away from the game. But, as it's gone on, I'm still seeing the same inconsistencies, but now I'm frustrated because 4 people are now looking at it and making the wrong decision. Where before I went, look,
it's only the referee. It's only the referee will look at that and make the decision. The others look at it and make sure when the play's going on, they're looking at the play going on while the referee's looking at this incident. But what you have to look at is, we've got the World Cup coming up in obviously late November, December, and we haven't got no VAR officials going to the World Cup. What does that tell you? No VAR officials going to the World Cup. What does that tell you? There's like you say, we've got to. The training education is a must of our officials, and as I say, for me, VAR works perfectly well as long as it's implemented correctly. Now, in the Champions League, we don't have a problem with it, do we? There's no problem in the Champions League. We don't see a problem in the Champions League. Now, that's because the leadership and direction, the training education from Roberto Rossetti is first class. In the Euros 2020, it was superb. The refereeing was fantastic. The VAR was fantastic. We didn't get one problem.
But the big question I've got is it takes the consistency out. As you say, people can make errors, and Jon Moss made that error. But what I don't understand is, and I don't know if you can answer this, Mark, is why does it have to be clear and obvious error? Is that to keep the back of the referees? Because if it's a penalty, it's a penalty. If it's a handball, it's a handball. It doesn't matter if he gave it or not originally. It should be done based on the facts of the decision.
I can understand the subjectivity and the clear and obvious, and there are times where not every contact is a foul, and we do see contact into the penalty area. Where you could say, you could give that or not give it. It's one of those. Now, for those incidents, yes, I can understand VAR not getting involved, but I have an issue with referees themselves because now we've got VAR, they're not making the big decisions. Then they're not giving the big decisions because they've got VAR to fall back on.
Right.
Definitely.
So if they don't get it, they think, oh, if I've got that wrong, VAR will recommend a review.
That's Jon Moss calling you, by the way.
You're right. Sorry. Yeah, where was he? Where was we? Red card for me there. Was that a yellow?
As I said, I was just more worried it was Jon Moss calling you. That was all.
Phones should have been turned off.
I presume that VAR is going to be here to stay. It's never going to be reversed, even if
absolutely. And as I say, I think it's good, but it's for me
implemented.
It's the way it's being implemented, and as I said before, I think referees are not making that big decision because they've got VAR to fall back on. If they make the mistake, then they're going to recommend a review. So we're not seeing, perhaps like you're saying, if a penalty is a penalty, then it should be given. I think if VAR went there, I think you most probably see a lot more penalties given.
Another one as well. I know it's not the Premier League, the Champions League as well. Just to touch on this one as well, Mark. Did you watch the Champions League final?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
When that Benzema goal went in, I was like, goal. Unless he's offside initially, for me, it was goal. So obviously, when it went to review and they were there for quite a while, it was then deciding whether Fabinho on purpose knocked it to Benzema, which I think is absolutely ridiculous because who intentionally would pass to the opposite team? But again, when I looked at that, Mark, I was thinking he's tried to make contact with the ball to try and intercept it. The way he came round the corner, it would only have gone in one direction if he had nicked it. Yes, it ended up actually deflecting off of him, but you've then gone the other way to the Championship game where it was originally given and then taken away from him. But that was not clear and obvious.
Well, it doesn't. Well, on offsides, it's factual. It's a matter of fact. Now, although the law sometimes is an ass, the offside law 11 is an ass. They were actually correct because it has to be a deliberate play. So I can't remember the Madrid player who came and poked it forward. So he's poked it forward. It's then come off of Fabinho. Was it Fabinho? Fabinho, when it come off him, and then it went on. No, it was off.
It was. It hit someone else before it hit Fabinho, didn't it?
Canate.
It was Canate first that was. It came off of him, and then it went on to Fabinho, and that wasn't a deliberate play. So that's why the offside was given. Now, if he made a deliberate play, then that would have played Benzema on onside. I know the law. I know it's difficult to understand. I mean, for me. It sometimes it does sound it's this offside laws all over. Well, just wish they would simplify it.
I mean that's another
for me
thing
as well.
Itself,
how can you have a t-shirt line, the top part of your arm playing someone onside, and you can score with the top part of your arm? It's absolutely nonsense. So they need to go back to handball is the whole part from the shoulder right the way down to your fingers.
Why has it got this delicate, should we say? So I thought this should make it better. It's clearly not. If not, it's making it worse. It's slowing the game down. We're having historic moments taken away from us, Mark, where we're celebrating and 3 minutes later we have to take that emotion and put it in a box. How have we got here? Because I agree with you that I've seen it implemented in other leagues when I've watched French leagues and it's working. I've seen the World Cup and thought it won't be that bad, but it gets in the hands of the English Premier League and for some reason it's all gone to pot.
It adds to all the excitement, guys, doesn't it? It adds to all the excitement. I don't know if you've been watching the cricket today. That's no different.
Oh, yeah.
But listen, what I think also, I mean, what you've got to remember is in the World Cup coming up and in the Euros 2020, UEFA have the pick of the best referees from all the leagues around Europe. So you're always going to get better standard of officiating because they've got the best. They've got the cream of the cream. That's why I think we see a lot more. I mean, we saw Michael Oliver and Anthony Taylor referee really well in the Euro 2020. It was they've done fantastically well. And as I say, they're by far our best referees in the Premier League. For me, I think Michael Oliver is the standout. I think that there's still a lot of work to do in the Premier League regarding VAR. But listen, it's not easy. What it is, it's either clear and obvious, or it's subjective. And I think we're seeing far too many subjective decisions being looked at for instance, in the penalty area where it doesn't need to be, because you're seeing subjective incidents being looked at, and then you're seeing blatant penalties that we see not looked at. So that's where we get our inconsistency from, and that's why you guys and everybody else is up in arms at the moment with the standard of officiating and also VAR implementation.
Mark, we're going to get some quick question and answer from you in a moment from some of our subscribers and followers on Twitter and Instagram. You might have answered some of these questions, but we'll come to these in a moment. Erin, are you looking at some of the games next year? I know you look beforehand, you look at potentially the referees. We always seem to get Kevin Friend quite a lot, or is it me?
Yeah, we do seem to get him. We got Keith Stroud quite a lot, which you'll remember, Mark. Bournemouth born and bred Keith Stroud. I don't know. That sits
you won't have him next season.
No, we won't. We seem to have Stuart Atwell quite a lot as well.
But
that's some decent. I was going to ask you actually very quickly, what's Mike Dean like?
Dino's. I mean, you won't be having him next season either.
No, it's a shame.
He's retired, but I mean, Dino, just for someone that's refereed well over 500 league games in the Premier League. I mean, he got on just after. I mean, I think he got promoted after. I think I was on 2001. I think Dino got on as well, just after that. And listen, he's a character. He's a character. You can have a laugh with him as well. You have a great laugh. But Dino's Dino. I think the players. From what I can, I mean, lots of people criticised him. I think the fans are glad. I think the fans are glad that he's finished. But they don't understand him. But the players, I think the players will miss him because they loved his banter on the field of play, because he could give as good as he got, like myself. We give as good as we get, you know.
Brilliant. Right, Mark, are you happy to answer some questions from our subscribers?
Yeah. What we got? Yeah.
Yeah, we'll as I say, you can pretty much fly through these. You might have answered some of them already. So thank you to everyone who submitted a question. Carol Toller, she said, would you be happy for your conversations to be heard as in rugby so everyone would know what is going on, especially with VAR? And you've sort of answered this already.
But... If she's listening, I've answered that. I believe that. I think, yes, we should be listening to what the referee and the VAR are talking about. Absolutely spot on.
Brilliant. John Spark, who contributes on Cherries Red Army, bit of a long question, but I'll try and read it quickly. Why do players have to wait for the ref's whistle? A free kick gives an advantage to a team player that was fouled, so they should be able to use that quickly if they want, rather than forcing players to wait for a ref. Why can't they allow play and rely on his assistance if needed?
Yeah, listen, I mean, the referee's a sole judge and timekeeper of games. It's down to the referee. Players stop and start the game. Obviously, in around the penalty area, you're not going to allow a quick free kick. It's just you've got to use your common sense. You've got to make sure the keeper's in position. It's just common sense on that situation. But anywhere else on the park, you don't have to. The referee doesn't have to blow his whistle. All he's got to do is make a signal. Okay, away you go, lads. No problem. Away we go. That's all you got to do. So what frustrates me is stopping the game unnecessary when we see a lot of that. Especially, cautioning players. I think last season, and both in the Championship, because I watched a lot of Championship and Premier League games, far too many cheap cautions. But then saying that, sometimes the players don't help either, the way they go down.
Definitely. Paul Kenwood on Instagram said, should VAR stick to just doing offsides and red cards, ditch it for penalties as most are 50-50, and everyone has a different opinion like you've talked about?
Well, listen, it's the IFAB. I think if we've got the four criteria for reviews, and I think on penalties VAR is there for the absolute howler, and that's what it should be there for, the howler. We've seen many howlers. Well, we've seen howlers last season, but VAR didn't get involved, did they? So. No, listen, as I said before, I'm a great fan of VAR as long as it's implemented correctly. That's all we ask. And we just got to look at the Champions League, the way they operate. No problem at all.
Callum, he asked about the use of technology, and we've covered that extensively on this. So I'm sure you're happy already with that. Red Army 1899 said, which referee in the Premier League is the fairest and strictest, in your opinion?
The fairest, I think I was when I was around. I think the fairest. I think he's firm, he's fair, gives players a chance. I think it's about players. I mean, referees think they go out, they should just walk onto that pitch and command respect. That's not the case. You gain that respect with how you treat the players, how you talk to the players, your accuracy in your decision making, your awareness of what's going on around you, talking to players off the ball. The ball the ball never commits an offence. So you've always got that time to look around, see what's going on, talking to the players, getting involved with the players. So that's what I like to see in a referee. We've got too many that sometimes are a little bit arrogant when they come onto the football play. You don't need to be like that. You don't need to be arrogant. We're part of the football family. And I think if I'm looking, looking at referees, I think who's the fairest and firmest and not necessarily the strictest, but you've got to give players a chance. You've got to show empathy for the game, and it's not about the laws of the game. It's about understanding the players. It's about understanding players' frustrations, so you can just nip things in the bud. And I think Michael Oliver's got all that in his locker. I really do. I really do think he's got all that in his locker.
Aaron, I'm going to give you an opportunity to ask one really key question. I've got one more for Mark before I come to you, Aaron. This is a really good one, Mark. Why do they award free kicks outside the box for all kinds of reasons, but when in the penalty area, the whistle seems to go missing, but they're the same or similar fouls?
Listen, a penalty, if you're given a foul in the penalty area, it's got to be 100 and 200% a foul, because you're getting effectively, you're giving a go, aren't you? And I know a lot of people say, "Oh, that was soft," but soft's not in the laws of the game. So it's easier to give what people perceive as a soft free kick outside the box as it is to give one inside the box. I know it don't make it right in some people's eyes, but it's easier to give something like that on the halfway line than what it is in the penalty area, like a little shove or a little pull or a little bit of contact. It's easier to give to play safe outside than it is inside.
Definitely. Aaron, have you got this opportunity to ask Mark a really crucial question?
Yeah, so Mark, you often hear supporters and everyone sort of say, "Oh, he's going to even it up now." If you get a red card, if a team gets a red card, and you sort of say, "Be careful, you don't want him to even it up," or as you say, if you kind of know, if you're told at half time that you've made a bad decision, maybe this is before VAR days, I guess, you made a bad decision. Is it in your mind, obviously now that you're not in the top flight anymore, you might be able to answer this maybe. Is it at all in your mind that, oh, I made a bad decision, I've got to try and even it up? Or obviously it wouldn't be an obvious thing to do, but does it play in the referee's mind if you know you made a bad decision or something like that you want to kind of even it up at some stage?
No, I mean I can only speak for myself, but that's absolute nonsense. I mean, what you have to do, the top referees, the best referees, we do make mistakes, but what you have to do, you have to park it and move on, because if you dwell on it, you are going to make more mistakes. So it does go through your mind for the next couple of minutes to think, oh, have I got that right? Have I got that wrong? Oh, I hope I've got that right. So it does go through your mind, but you have to park it and move on, and you just referee what's in front of you. No referee goes out there to even things up. Absolutely, that's it's definitely not. Definitely not.
It's just in the fan's mind when you're standing by.
It is, it is. Absolutely,
right.
yeah.
I've got one for you as well, Mark, because as you'll know, we played against your football team last season, and we got a certain Jeff Lerma in our football team. We absolutely love Jeff. Now, you've been given the match by the officials that give you the football matches coming up.
We had a player sent off in it. We had a player sent off at home, didn't we, that game? I'm sure we did.
Right,
yeah. Was it the 1-0? I'm not sure.
Later on in the second
Jeff
half,
was brilliant that day. I think he blocked it on the. He blocked a shot on the line, didn't he? That day.
Yeah.
I'm sure he did. When you've been given the match, then, and you're preparing for that game, are you looking at the squads and the players? And we always feel, and I've always thought, is Jeff's card marked before the game even kicks off?
No, it shouldn't be. I mean, obviously, you referee those players all the time. You could have them play. Them players will know you, and you will know them players. And I mean, I often went up to players. I mean, referee. You go up to Patrick Vieira, I go up to Paul Scholes, I go up to Roy Keane, I go up to Fellaini, and many players. I used to go, hey, behave yourself today. Don't be doing nothing silly today. All right. You know, so you're just managing them. You're managing the game. It's about managing the game, managing the players, managing the event, and you just referee what's in front of you. You referee what's in front of you, and as I say, you just go out there and you're just talking away all the time. You know, you're trying to keep 22 players on the pitch. You know, referees do not want to send players off if they can help it. Players dictate how referees referee a game of football.
It's been brilliant to have you on, Mark. I'm sure you agree with me, Aaron. I mean, this has been really refreshing for me, who I have been frustrated, and I'm sure a lot of fans have been with VAR. We've had 2 years without it. It's been absolutely fantastic. But going into it, there is a level of concern. I mean, what are you doing nowadays, Mark? I mean, are you still within the game?
I work in the media. I work, do working for the Sun newspaper, and no doubt I'll be working and talking about your players or your VAR and incidents in your games next season in the Sun newspaper. You're seeing my reports on Twitter and whatever. So I'm doing that. I try, I speak. I'd love to. I've been involved in coaching and training referees abroad in America and Colombia, which I've really enjoyed. And I try to help, talk to some young referees. Although I'm living in Spain, I can still work from here and talk to referees over the telephone and young referees. I'd love to get back. I'd love to get into working with the elite referees. Obviously, that won't happen at the moment while present management's in charge of the PGMOL. But listen, it's something I love. I'm passionate about football. I'm a football fan. I love football. I've played it all my life from a young boy as a player, and then obviously as a referee from the age of 28. So I'm still involved heavily in a bit of coaching and writing for the newspaper and on the radio, obviously on Talk Sport.
Just to top it all off, Aaron, we haven't quite mastered VAR yet in England, and they're already bringing new updates with some semi-automated offsides that are coming soon at some
robots.
Point. I'm worried that we can't even master it now, and we're already looking at some updates. But this has been really interesting, Aaron.
Yeah, absolutely loved it, Mark. Really, really appreciate your time. I said I've been watching football over the years, and it's just there's been so many great referee characters, of which obviously you were one, and kind of a bit nostalgic about some of the great characters over the years, and so many of them now kind of sort of blend into one to some degree, apart from a few of them, as you say, the real elite ones. So been a real eye-opener. I'm sure there's loads more questions I'd like to ask you, but obviously we haven't got the time.
Dean Court's changed a bit. I mean, when I refereed there a couple of times. One was an FA Cup tie, Bristol City. That was live on Sky many years ago.
Was that when? Was it?
I assume the stadium would have been a different way.
Flex was playing then. So
someone scored a screamer. I can't remember what it was. Top corner. Can't remember who it was now.
Yeah, and I think there was another league game early August. It might have been against Colchester United. I'm not sure. It was early August. I think it was the opening day of the season. I think.
It might be the smallest stadium in the Premier League next season, but we still do create an atmosphere. Any hope for QPR next season in the Championship? Didn't quite make the playoffs this time round, but
we need to spend a bit of money. We need to get some players in. I think we punched well above our weight for the majority of last season. Obviously, it told in February when we went about, I think 11, 12 games on the run, defeat, not winning the game. I think that's why Mark Warburton sort of left at the end of the season. I think he was pushed, but I thought he'd done an excellent job with what he had, with no money to spend, getting in loans and using the young players. So, but just hope, as I say, give them some money. We need some money if we're going to compete at the very, very top. You need a strong squad, and you need a good squad, especially the Championship, because it's so hard to get out of that Championship. And it's so easy because everybody was capable of beating each other, weren't they, in that Championship? I mean, we lost to Peterborough 3 times in the FA Cup and 2 league games. We lost to Barnsley when they were bottom of the league. We lost to Peterborough when they were second from bottom. And they beat their place and our place. So it's a tough league.
It's a great league as well. Mark, again, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. You're looking well. Thank you so much. We wish you all the best. I think we need you at some point in the game, because everything you've said, I think, is what the fans are looking to see implemented on the pitch. So it's been really refreshing, and thank you for your time.
You're welcome. Take care, guys. Stay safe.
Cheers, Mark. Thank you.
Enjoy the England game. So we win.
Try to. Cheers, Mark.
Yeah.
Take care. All the best. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much to Mark Halsey for joining us on this video. Aaron, we're going to mop this video up, and what an interesting conversation. He didn't hold back, and quite refreshing, in my opinion.
Yeah, explosive, wasn't it? Really, you know, that could be an expose in itself. But yeah, really a candid, open conversation about the state of refereeing in English football at the moment. Because, you know, we talked at length with him about the success in World Cups and various other leagues around the world, the way that the VAR is used. But just there seems to be the philosophy around the referees at the moment doesn't seem to be quite right. And it was really interesting to hear his views on that. And as you say, you know, refreshing, because as fans, you know, we go week in, week out. We want referees to be accountable. We know they're human, but it's the frustrations of this whole, you know, clear and obvious errors and the way that technology is used, and that's 4 people looking at it and still making, you know, subjective decisions. And it's really, really frustrating. And we don't want it to ruin the game and be a topic of conversation the whole time. So that was really interesting to hear. And also, obviously, his views, you know, on football as a whole, and his experience as a referee pre-VAR, and managers who, you know, obviously have had certain influences, etc., and the way he handles players on the field. It was a really, really interesting conversation.
Yeah, an absolute excellent guest to have, and we can only hope, Aaron, that things do improve. I'm really hoping I don't die inside a little bit when I see VAR come up on the big screen in the corner. I'm really hoping that if we don't do very well in the Premier League, we don't do very well because of us, not because of other influences. But yeah, thanks for joining me on this video, because it was an interesting one.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. I really, really enjoyed that. And yeah, really looking forward to next season. And hopefully, as you say, if VAR is it does affect us, it's for the right reasons.
Yeah, we are owed a few. I'm sure of that. Right, we hope you've enjoyed this video. As I said at the start of this video, please subscribe to Cherries Red Army. Hit the like button. Get your thoughts below in the comments. We'll read every single one. More content coming throughout pre-season. And then when the season gets going, yep, we're going to be there bringing you all the content you need. But thanks to Mark Halsey again. Thanks to Aaron for joining me on this video. And we will see you on the next one. Up the cherries.
Up the cherries.